Alright, I am pumped for this one, man. I did a series like this with Dead Space and had a ton of fun taking a step back into the past to see what everyone loves so much about a classic game. And with Space Marine 2 right around the corner, man, what a great time to give this 13-year-old game a whirl. You know there's something special hidden in this game to bring it back for a second installment over a decade later. And before I even dive deep into this one, I can say that I'm even more excited about Space Marine 2 than ever. And I see a ton of potential from the end of the first Space Marine to pick up where we left off. And towards the end, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Space Marine 2 and do a little bit of comparison between that and Helldivers 2. So without further ado, let's find out. Is it actually good or just nostalgia? Arguably one of the most tough and badass factions to ever grace the Warhammer universe has to be the Ultramarines. Donning some epic armor that allows for peak performance and the ability to take some serious damage and even flight. Being a futuristic high sci-fi fantasy warrior, you'd think you'd keep the laser guns and high-tech weaponry, but one of my favorite parts about this game and this universe is the blend between very cool high-tech range weapons and some good old in-your-face melee action. I got a serious Gears of War vibe while playing this, with wild fights and gruesome kills, but imagine turning up the enemy count times 10, and get even more in your face with close combat. One of the hardest parts about this game when I first started out was thinking that I should be shooting more often, but boy did that change my tune quick. With 4 different melee weapons, the combat knife, chainsword, power axe, and thunderhammer, it gave plenty of opportunity to hack through some greenskins and demons, whatever way you like. And with multiple combos allowing you to stun and perform executions that not only looked badass, but they were also a way to heal yourself, which in turn made melee combat for this game way more important and deep than most of today's third-person shooters. I think that's a big selling point here and what makes it stand out the most. It can really appeal to a large group of gamers, including ARPG fans. But there was one aspect to this game that I didn't see coming, but I slowly grew to love it. And it's roguelite elements involving your weapons. You can only wield 1 melee weapon and you have 4 gun slots equipped at any time. But there are a total of 8 guns to choose from, and 2 of them are your primary and cannot be unequipped, your pistol and your bolter, which is basically like a fully automatic weapon. So do the math and you can only have 2 of those 6 other weapons equipped at any time. So here's where that roguelite element comes into play. You'll run into checkpoints throughout the game, and at these checkpoints you can re-up on ammo and also have the opportunity to swap out weapons. Sometimes it's just range, sometimes it's both melee and ranged weapons, leaving you with a choice on what you're committing to at least until the next checkpoint. Now at first I thought I was gonna hate this, but then it grew on me big time, and I found myself looking forward to seeing what weapons would be available at the next checkpoint. And it nudged me to play with different weapons every time I came across them, because you never know what weapons you'll get on that next checkpoint. And they might be placed there for a good reason, like a sniper, because the next sequence might have enemies far out of reach, for example. And honestly, it just made combat always feel fresh. I doubt they're going to keep this mechanic in Space Marine 2, and by the look of it, it may be more like that there's weapons just randomly placed throughout levels. So I don't know. I've only watched a little bit of Space Marine 2 gameplay, so if any of you guys know out there, drop that knowledge in the comments. Alright, so I've talked a lot about combat, but for good reason. That's where this game really shines. And unfortunately, Space Marine's story wasn't particularly gripping, at least until nearing the end. With a few twists here and there that actually weren't too bad, and an unexpected final boss sequence that left me feeling good about how it ended combat-wise. And of course the ending leaving it on a cliffhanger as to what will happen to Captain Titus as he goes with the Inquisition for interrogation. Thanks to this little
You slimeball bastard!
I was surprised by the lack of boss encounters. There's literally only 2 boss battles, and that's it. It had a few other more significant encounters, but I wish I had a few more major boss battles for sure. Hopefully we'll see more of those in Space Marine 2, and a more compelling story in general. Captain Titus is a fantastic character, and they can really build something special off of him. So I hope they rise to the occasion and bring us something epic. So with all that said, where do I land? Was it actually good, or was it just nostalgia? I'd say it was pretty awesome. Even with a story that I won't particularly think back on, I will remember the combat, and I kept thinking about the combat during my playthrough whenever I was taking a break, which is always a really good sign, especially for a game that's 13 years old. And now with certain expectations for Space Marine 2, I wonder what we'll truly get this time around. And will the wait be worth it for everybody who's been waiting 13 years? I think with the rise of popularity of Helldivers 2, there's going to be a ton of people who will definitely sign up for another game like that. And from the release gameplay footage of Space Marine 2, we're getting a ton of those chaotic vibes, with massive waves of enemies and confirmed 3-man co-op. I have a feeling a multiplayer is going to be a big hit. But even better than Helldivers because we're going to have 6v6 PvP, in addition to co-op. Which, from what I read, was a big hit back in the day with Space Marine 1. Now there are a few things I'd like to see improved coming into Space Marine 2. 1. Dodging, and the possible ability to block or counter. Because of the nature of Ultramarines, they just tank through enemies, but with how often you can do up close battles, I would love to see some type of counter move or a block. That could seriously take close combat to the next level. But as long as they improve the dodge, I suppose I can't complain. In the first one, it definitely felt a little clunky, so I'd be shocked if they didn't give us a more polished, responsive dodge. And finally, the story. Warhammer 40k is such a lore-rich universe, they have a massive opportunity to write a AAA story here, and I really hope they come through. We already know they can create an excellent gameplay experience, so time to step it up a notch in the storytelling department. So what about you guys? What do you want to see in Space Marine 2? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you guys are excited about Space Marine 2 like me, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Stick around for the full review on that bad boy when it comes out. As always, happy gaming, and I'll see you guys in the next one.